Hey Jay, welcome back to another session two. Now that you got one in the can, let me mute you. Now that you got one in the can, how you feel about session two? Well, you just muted and we just couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
I said I feel great.
That's good. And let me know, do you hear an echo or anything? Or are you good?
I do hear an echo.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is there still an echo?
Now I can't hear you at all.
It's all good. We got you. But no, we're very, very happy to have you here. And we got a really, really special guest. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but when Jay speaks, you should be able to hear her through my phone. So Jay, why don't you try one more time? You got to have your phone by you though.
All right, how's that? Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Now, there you go. There you go.
All right.
All right. Cool. So I think you muted your phones. That's what you did, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm learning. This is a learning process for me, Charles. All right. I'm new to this. So you got to have some grace with me.
It's all good, man. It's all good. But today, I'm really, really excited and happy about our guest, who is a really good friend of both of ours. Yeah, man. Today, we get to welcome Dr. Laura McGowan Robinson from Diversity and Leadership Institute. And in this show, we're talking about how to take control of your time and energy and investing in yourself and your family. So we're going to speak to, we talking to Black parents out there or anybody that's listening, but we talking to parents out there just around how you build your own power, how you build your own tables instead of having to beg people for a seat at their table. So today's episode is titled, Parents, Stop Asking Permission to Be at Someone Else's Table, Make Your Own. And everybody out there in the world, please help us in joining and bringing in our friend, Dr. Laura McGowan Robinson. Hey, lady.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We doing good.
Doing great.
Yeah. So Jay, go ahead. Now that we can hear you, why don't you talk to your friend so we can hop into this conversation?
Yeah, well, I wanted to make sure that we kind of defined what your own table is, because a lot of time we use that term and people may not be familiar with it. My thought around building your own table is there's this saying that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And what that implies basically is that someone else is in control. Someone else has the power to be able to place you in a position that you need to be. So when we talk about building your own table, it's making sure that you're at the seat to have agency and to take control over whatever circumstances that happen to be in place. And so when I thought of this episode, Laura, my heart, you immediately came to mind because I'm so proud of how you most recently stepped out on your own, took a leap of faith after years of commitment and dedication to not only Black folks, but just to education overall. You took a leap and decided to start your own organization. And I was like, this is a perfect guest to bring onto this show because it was a matter of putting what you'd already felt in your heart down in a situation that made it fruitful for you. And so that's why we wanted to bring you on. And that's what this whole episode is about.
Yeah, that's
thank you.
Jay,
thank you.
Dr. Laura, why don't you tell us just a little bit more about you before we dive all the way in? Like, tell us the story of you and then how that kind of led you into building out your own thing. And we're both very, very proud of you. So
thank you. And
because you got to have your wine. It's Friday. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like, this is a toast and a cheers to everybody making it through this week. Everybody who's online with us. Like, Chris, I saw the shout out. I appreciate you being here. So that's the most important thing about this episode, having your wine ready for Friday.
There you go.
Well, thanks. And thanks for that generous intro. And it's really just an honor. And I feel like I'm at home. I'm with my people. I'm having a conversation about something that I'm really passionate about. So thank you for the space. And thank you for considering me for the conversation. Just to share a little bit about my background. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't really share my background without talking about my grandmother. So my grandmother, Laura Woodley, lived to the ripe old age of 98. I'm a granddaughter of sharecroppers. My grandmother was a sharecropper. My grandfather was a sharecropper. My grandmother was able to achieve a 6th grade education. My grandfather, a 3rd grade education. My grandmother, when she learned of my grandfather's illiteracy, supported him in learning how to write his name, and something that she discovered later on in their relationship. So she always was an educator. She always wanted to be a teacher, but she didn't have that opportunity. And so I stand on her shoulders, and without her, there is no me. I'm actually named after her. So I bring that along with me too. They had 16 children. And of those 16 children, my grandmother's desire was that all of them would finish high school, because that was something that she wanted to do. And with the exception of those who died as children, very young, all of them accomplished that dream. And my mother, at the age of 40, was the one to complete college. And she was 40 with 3 children, married. And I was the youngest of those 3. And I was 5 years old. And I remember very clearly attending my mother's college graduation. And it was at that point she told me that I would one day graduate from college, but I would do it right after high school. And again, that trajectory from my grandmother to my mother really provided the way for me to be where I am right now. And I'm continuing to learn and grow. But those seeds for education were planted really early. And so I'm grateful for my ancestors, for my immediate family, for my brothers. All of them made sacrifices so I could be where I am right now. And I thank them for it. So that's a little bit about me. When it comes to the Diversity and Leadership Institute, that this is not my first entrepreneurial venture. This is actually my second entrepreneurial venture. The first was founding a school. And then I had an opportunity to work closely as Jay's colleague for a while in my last capacity. And more recently had the opportunity to, you're absolutely right, step out on faith and found the Diversity and Leadership Institute. And what we do is focus on increasing the pipeline for Black and Latinx leaders to become K-12 administrators in the state of California. Right now, when we look at our schools, only 20% of those administrators in school actually running schools are about 20% Black and Latinx, while over 60% of our students represent those populations. So that's what we're dedicated to doing. That story is near and dear to me because it's one that I walked, being one of few and often the only in rooms talking about what was best for students of color.
What's up, man? Before we dive in, Jay, I know y'all are really, really close. We had a viewer just asked us, what do we mean when we say agency, especially in this capacity for parents? So Jay or Dr. Laura, either one of you can answer that question.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. When I say agency, it is about, like I said, the self-control, being able to, in the terms of own your own masters, right? So when something is happening in your life, you are in the driver's seat, you are directing and deciding which way to turn, how to navigate. So that's what I mean by agency.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up. So, man, I'm just very, very happy to have you both here. And when we were building this out, when Jay was coming up with these episodes, it wasn't a question about if we had to go and get Dr. Laura. So we're just both very, very proud of you. Jay, why don't you and we'll bring Dr. Laura into this, but there was a reason why we wanted to have this type of conversation, right, around agency and building your own table and whatnot. Our show got an exclamation point at the end of it for a reason. So,
right,
what's the need for this show, for this episode?
All right, so here we go. We're going in.
Well, let me give you the screen. You go ahead.
Right. So the need for this episode and this show is because, in my experience, way too often, I have seen Black folks, specifically Black parents, be on the menu. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, I went to college, I studied in college, and one of the most profound things I realized is that when you go off and you study, there are case studies of what's going on. So, for example, Marshall Gans is very well known in the organizing community. He is a Harvard professor, and he teaches organizing theory. And when I read and found out and studied what he was teaching, it was based off of what Cesar Chavez and Larry Eatleong were doing in the field. And so it hit me, and I was like, no shade to Marshall Gans for taking that and realizing that we needed to turn that to something that other people learn. But the reality is that when we come into this space as parents, we talk about education and we talk about what's happening to our children. That is our authentic story. It's not theory. We are the practitioners of that story. So why are we not, in fact, owning that narrative? Why are we not authentically telling that story from our own voices? And what I've found in my experience, especially when we're working in policy and education, you've got all these other people who've got opinions, all these other stakeholders who've got these opinions about how parents should show up and how they should, basically share the stories about their children. And I just believe that we need to take more agency over that. And that comes in different forms that we'll talk about a little bit later, because, it is a skill. It is something that you have to learn. But I would rather people invest in teaching that skill and letting people go and run with it than investing in trying to tell people how they should have that skill, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Jump on in, Dr. Laura. I think Jay just said a lot. And I'm sure you got some points to chime in on as well around, why is this an important topic? Why do we need to learn how to build our own?
Yeah. And I'm speaking from the context of just my own education experience and being in the field of education. The system wasn't built for us. It wasn't created with us in mind. And so I think about our earliest attempt to be included in the system. 1787, I believe, was when a group of Black parents went to Boston public schools and asked if their kids could be included in the public education system, and they were denied. And that was before we were, hiding and trying to find ways to read or lynched for trying to have access to education. Education is something that we've always sought after. And there's a myth out there that, Black parents aren't engaged, Black parents aren't in school. And that's a lie. It is exactly that. It's a myth. I know it for a fact that it's not true for a fact, because I had a mom who stayed at the school, who constantly was helping with me with my homework. And as a principal, I saw parents take ownership of their children's education. And I've also seen and been a part of parents who took charge of a parent trigger and said, you know what, this school is ours. It belongs to us. So we have a history of asking, and when it hasn't been granted to us, creating the spaces for ourselves, whether that's freedom schools, whether that's a charter school, whether that's a parent trigger through your district. We have always been engaged in that way. And so it's just about harnessing what we already have and standing on the shoulders of our ancestors and moving forward in this new context and harnessing this as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Just to jump in there, I think y'all both kind of really hit it. And one of the things that I wanted to really focus on too is like, there's the other aspect, and I say this often. Jay tells me I have to take a sip before I go off. So
yeah, everybody take a sip, because when Charles gets fired, he gets fired up.
I'm not gonna go off.
Remember,
I'm not gonna go off today. But what I will say is, I'm sick and tired of having to beg people to love us. I'm sick and tired of having to beg people to be merciful and to be generous with us, when all we've done is be merciful and generous with everybody else, right? And I think that just as Black people, I know that there was somebody, it was a Black sister that was talking about it not that long ago, but just was like, this country is lucky that, we just want some equality and some equity as opposed to some revenge, right? And I think that for me, if my freedom, if my happiness, if my wins have to be dependent on racist people and racist systems no longer being racist, then take me out. Like, I can't play that game, right? So that's why we do so much work around agency. And by building your own table, you may not win, but at least you are more in control of your destiny than somebody else who don't love you, You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I can't live that type of life. So when I talk about building your own tables, one, people don't understand how much power they got. And shout out to Lakeisha, who I just saw in the comments. We were trying to get her on this episode as well.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that she's done in Oakland, which I think is just huge, is build a platform where parents are leaning into their power and they are making some demands. And if you don't want to deal with hands and you don't want to deal with that heat and that smoke that they bring, you better do what they asked you to do. You know, I think Laura going off and building her own thing and saying, look, we know that the data say that Black kids do better when they got Black folks and brown folks in their school buildings, both as teachers and as administrators. And why should we keep begging systems to do that when we could just build it and grow the product from a seed into a tree on our own? So that's why I'm telling you to build your table. Go ahead.
I got one better for you. How about we rebuild it? Because like Laura was saying, there's this false narrative, like we don't know what the hell we're doing. I mean, we come from a history. The legacy of us in this country is about building it for ourselves. Somehow that message got lost, and somehow people felt like they had to come in and tell us what to do and tell us what's best for us. And that is not the legacy. That's not the culture that we come from. And so that in itself is a problem, because I'm not asking for anything that's not rightfully mine. I'm not asking you for anything that I don't understand clearly from my own perspective. What I need to be asking for you to do is provide me with a platform so that I can do exactly what I know how to do well. That's it. And be supportive of that. And too often it's like, oh, well, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had, you know, I've trained parents or whatever, and I've tried to encourage parents to speak at hearings and things. And people are like, oh, well, they aren't that articulate. We want to get this other person, and this other person gets there and reads the script. It's like, no, like they need to hear the authentic voice of this parent who's going through this situation. They need to hear from someone like Dr. Laura McGowan Robinson, who is, you know, whose mother graduated from college at 40, because it's possible, because that's a legacy. That's not an anomaly. You know what I mean? It's built into us. And too often we're not told that enough. We're told we can't do it. You know, we don't know how to do it. Someone needs to teach us. And that's just a false narrative.
And we're built. And the thing is, like, and we talked about this before, we have the spaces and places for parents to get engaged. But so often our leaders don't create the environment or the space for those parents to actually take advantage of it. We are operating, and mostly when I talk about I'm putting myself in the seat of an educator. We're operating from this like Eurocentric paradigm where like, oh, well, we have parent meetings from this time to this time, and if you can't come, then that means you're not engaged. No, if I'm working 2 jobs, you need to make it conducive for me to engage on my own terms. And just because you don't see me doesn't mean that I'm not engaged. Doesn't mean that I'm not staying up late with my son while he does his homework. Doesn't mean that I'm not making sure that he has support with his homework, or finding resources for my son to get support in the areas that I may not know as a parent. It doesn't mean that I'm not going out and finding extracurricular activities for my child to get engaged in. And I'm not serving as a coach on my child's team. Just because you don't see me doesn't mean that I'm not engaged, and doesn't mean necessarily that I don't have a table. I might have a table, but it might not look like the table you think I should have. So I also think we need to think about, you know, we're meeting our parents where they are and making sure that we're creating the time and space for them to engage on their own terms.
And I just want to take a quick little praise break almost, man, because Toya just said she got her master's at 58. We're going to clap for Toya. That's amazing. That's beautiful. I love Mama Toya, man. Christina says she did grad school with 2 kids and pregnant as an adult, even though folks told her that she was crazy. I mean, I think that the part of this is like leaning into your power. And there's one thing I want to push. You said this, Jay, and I want to push it a little bit. You had said, all I need is a platform, and then y'all can get out the way. My thing on that is I don't even expect them to give me a platform. It's like the same way you and I built this, right? No, we didn't ask nobody for this. We own this. We can do this whenever we want. We can have drinks here or whatnot. We don't have to fall into this narrative that people trying to build right now that's tearing black men and black women apart. Because if you go on Twitter right now, you would think that black men and black women were at war. And I think that those are narratives that those people that we often ask for space, I think that they create that stuff. Listen, if I was worried about Black people finding out who they were, finding their true identity, finding their power, building their own stuff, the best thing that happens for me is if they start beefing with each other. The best thing that happens is if they start funking, right? So it's like, you can, I've probably have said the wrong things before, whatever the case is or whatnot, but I try to support Black women through my actions. So it's like, yo, if Dr. Laura is asking me to do something, I'm not going and putting the hashtag up on Twitter, but I'm going to answer that call and do what's asked of me, or I'm going to work and do what I need to do with somebody like Jay, and both of them look out for me as well, and I just think that, but I get to say this because it's our platform. It's something that we built.
You have agency,
yeah, man. And I'll take first off, 1,700 of you joined us for the last episode. We had 1,700 views before I did a boost, and we ended up around 5,000 views, right? Like, I'll rock with the 5,000 that came and wanted to really engage with us and show love and send us good comments and good energy, than like a manufactured group of people that's not necessarily my people, that don't understand me, don't understand the way I speak, and don't understand my whole motive in life. So that's why I tell people to build their own, because sometimes it's better to be the head of a mouse than the tail of a lion. You got to make that decision for yourself. But I'm proud of what we built, and we're going to keep building. So anyway,
absolutely.
Hopefully that wasn't too much of a go off. I don't think I went off too much.
Nah,
on that one.
You were good. You were good.
Well, let's
go stop the child.
Well, let's move to our second question. Then it's like, well, what now that we talked about in the ether around why people should be building their own, what led each of you to start having these thoughts? And then I can round it out, but I want to start with our host, Jay. Like, what is making you kind of reevaluate and start the process of building your own table?
Right. So I think I've kind of shared it, and I'll go a little bit more in detail. What's really made me reevaluate it is the fact that I'm doing it anyway. I'm a mother anyway. I'm a wife anyway. Like I realized in my profession that, white folks will be quick to write somebody a check to come in to be a consultant and to be an advisor to a group of people that they don't live in their community. They're not connected to their community. Some of them don't even have children. And yet they've made a career off of coming into a space and telling me and telling my community what's best for me. And so I just looked at that and I was like, well, wait a minute. There's something wrong with this. First of all, like I said, like authenticity, you can't beat that. You know what I mean? To be able to come in and work with someone who is the authentic voice, the real deal, the mold of the model, like that is where we all stand. And so for me, it was just like, this is ridiculous, and more so it's about community, right? Because when I do this, it's the each one teach one proverb, right? When I'm doing this, it is building back and it's investing in my community, because I still will go to the grocery store and see the people that I just talked to, last week at school. 10 years ago, or for the past 10 years, I was in Newark, New Jersey, working with parents, and they remember my kids because I was showing up pregnant, doing stuff for free. And I did it because, it was a love for my community and wanting to see them grow. And, it was a connection there. My kids have aunties because they were, when I was presenting, they were holding my baby. And it don't got to be that gorilla, you know what I mean? It is also about being professional. But for me, it was just a matter of like, look, I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it. But I can also do this and make a career out of this. I can also do this and build my community. I can tap into my passion. And so that was a big portion of it for me, is that a lot of times we spend the majority of our hours working for somebody else or somebody else's dime. Not like Laura mentioned, not being able to spend that time with our children because we're working 2 or 3 hours or doing 2 or 3 jobs. What if I were to be able to create a narrative where you could build something that your child is right there with you? She's working with you. He's working with you. You can bring your child to work with you. Things like that are in our wheelhouse that people just need to be exposed to is what was really, I thought about that and I was like, this is possible. This is really possible.
Well, Laura, same question to you, and I'll restate it. And thank you so much for that, Jay. I mean, listen, I'm constantly motivated by Jay and just how brilliant she is and the way that she works and the way that she sees things. And I think, and I'm glad that she's building her own table, no matter how she had to get there to make that decision. So thank you, Jay. And thank you for your sacrifice and what you had to endure to where you finally got to that point. It's like, I got to build this. But same question to you, Laura. It's like, Dr. Laura, I'm sorry. We friends. We friends and stuff. So
Laura's fine. Laura's fine.
Calling each other by our names. But John, you Dr. Laura out in these streets right now,
Absolutely. It's bona fide. She earned that.
Absolutely, right. And she's somebody that I have a ton of respect for, and I'll go to war with and I'll go to battle with because I know how she's gonna show up. What motivated you to finally kind of reevaluate and just say, nah, I gotta build my own thing?
Yeah, well, for one, it was having the same conversation over and over about why isn't this happening? Why are there just so few Black people in educational leadership? And where are all the people? Where are the brown people? Where are the Black people? And then seeing the data that confirmed what I already knew to be true, that when you have leaders of color in schools, that makes a difference in terms of educational outcomes and school climate overall, and also preparation for college. And so I said, I'm tired of talking about it. And if not now, then when? And if not me, then who? So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to do this. And it also grieved me to not only see children when I was a site principal look at me in disbelief, like, you're the principal? Wow, I never had a Black woman as a principal before. I've never had a principal of color. And just being shocked because that wasn't my experience. I always had Black teachers, a Black principal. So that wasn't my reality. And I couldn't imagine my son, who's now 2, but when I took this leap, he wasn't 2, he was just 1 year old. I couldn't imagine a life for him where he tells me he did not have a Black teacher. He never witnessed a woman, a Black woman in leadership, or a Black male. That in and of itself, and seeing my son and having the idea that could possibly be his story is what motivated me to do this. And I knew that I couldn't do it alone. And I'm sure we're gonna talk about this a little bit later, but building your table is also about building a community of support around you. And so that's also what helped me reevaluate and take that leap. It was my son. It was the community of support that I had that was like, you know what, Laura, go ahead. And it was also my faith. I'm a person of faith, and I believe that, God showed me this, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm supposed to be walking in my purpose. So that's what I did.
That's beautiful, man. And I mean, I'm glad that you did. I feel like you and I had conversations before you took that leap, and I think that there were a bunch of people kind of speaking that life into you, and I think that but it's for good reason. I think you're one of the most thoughtful people in this work, and you do great work. And and sometimes we just don't, I don't know, we just don't believe it. We don't believe that we can do it. We don't believe we got the skills for it or whatnot. And I'll share mine. I mean, my story is pretty similar, right? But I got tired. Here's a few things. One, I got tired of being mad at the player and tried to figure out what the game was, right? It's like, look, these people doing what they do in power. This is how power moves. Power doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have emotions, right? And so power doesn't concede itself. So I'm in other people's organizations that they built, and I'm mad about how they doing stuff. Well, that's just they shit. Like, they can do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, I can keep complaining and being mad about it, or I can go build my own. The other thing is, you know how wild it is when you from the hood and you work in the hood, but somebody that ain't from the hood, that is a white person and read a book, they read like about the bake sale or whatever, and then they telling you how to approach people in the hood. Yeah, that's a problem for me. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can mean well all you want, and I'm not mad at you, right? You know what I'm saying? But you're not gonna tell me how to like do this. You gave an example that I dealt with so much, Laura, where I would do community engagement for the district, and for some of our families that had more traditional kind of settings at home where the father may have worked and the mom was at home, we had parent meetings on a Wednesday or a Tuesday at 11 a.m. And the Black mamas couldn't show up because they working. But then the whole thing is like, well, look who care about their kids, look who's showing up, and look who doing this. And they don't say it like that, right? But it feel like that, and that's how it stings. And it's like, nah, man. Like, so I knew at that point where I had to be like, okay, no, I got a voice here, and I can do these things different. And the other thing that I would say that made me go and do my own is that some people actually like being able to complain. Some people actually like being able to put it on somebody else and to be like, well, such and such didn't do this and such didn't do that, right? And I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be the dude that was getting a check from somebody complaining about that person that I'm getting a check from. Because again, that's their thing. You know what I mean? So it was like, look, and if I'm gonna bust my hump, yo, you know how many times I ended up at the OUSD building at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, doing work, loading up the car, unloading the car, getting the room set up and all that. I'm doing all this work for somebody else's org. If I'm gonna kill myself, let me at least kill myself for myself and my own lineage. You know what I'm saying? Let me do it for me. And I love working. You know what I'm saying? I'll do it until somebody stops me. I asked Jay. Jay knows me very well, and she knows most times she hit me, I'm probably doing.
Charles froze.
Okay. We lost
Yeah, y'all keep going. Y'all keep it happens. Y'all keep going.
No, I was like, sometimes I'll text Charles and I'll be like, wait a minute, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, oh, and he'll be like, bing, I'm up. Like, do you sleep? Like, what is going on? But the thing is, when you're doing something you love, and Laura, we've had this conversation too. Like, when you're doing something that you love, it's not work, right? It's just
exactly.
If your baby woke up in the middle of the night, that's your labor of love. That's what you're not going to say, oh, I'm off the clock. You know what I mean? So you do that because that's what it's about. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's rewarding, especially like it's for me, it's fulfilling because I'm doing this for my community. Like to me, it's about legacy. It's about changing what was to what can be. And so like, that's what gets me up in the morning. And so as I think about, okay, what kind of world do I want to create for my son? And what world do I want for my grandkids? And so what seeds can I sow as long as I have breath in my body? And if it happens to be something that I really enjoy, that I really love doing, and I feel incredibly fulfilled by. So I'm with you on like putting your time into things that fill you up. And if building your own table and figuring out what your passion is, and then building a table around that, it doesn't feel like work. You're absolutely right, Jay. It doesn't.
I mean,
and it's needed.
Yeah, keep going. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's needed because this is where we can tie it back into the education piece, because I am quite tired, and maybe I need to take a drink now myself because I'm a breathe. But the narrative about who we are as a people is always seen from a deficit. We are not a people of deficiency, regardless of what the statistics try to tell us. If the public education system is not serving our students well, it's not because our students are not able to learn. And so somehow people get that narrative twisted in their mind. What that tells me is that something about your education system is not appealing to my child. And that's the narrative we should speak from. And so that's what motivates me, is like, you're not going to keep telling me, and trying to convince me or my children that we're incapable of being great. You're not going to keep telling me that because, African Americans represent the lowest performing subgroup, somehow they have a learning disability. What's wrong is your system. Somehow your system is not able to cater or not able to create and draw out what's best in this child, which is exactly what education is supposed to do. It's supposed to draw out and create something for you. So that's the thing where I come into this space and like, no, we have to change. We got to debunk the myth. We have to debunk the myths about what people have said about us and about our communities, because it's false.
Yeah. Can I even jump in there too? Because you did something, Jay, and like you don't have to censor yourself here. Like you don't have to breathe first. You ain't got to calm down first. But this is the point. This is what I'm saying. This is why we build our own, right? Because look, man, they said it. Look, they said it. It's been there, right? If you train them to go to the back for whatever, they'll start walking there on their own. You know what I'm saying? Like you censoring yourself without somebody even, you know what I'm saying? Because those are the messages that you've been given, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think that, and I've gotten them too. I doubt myself all the time, or you know. And here's the thing: this is what I learned, man. And I'm gonna say this, and I said something like this similar to Laura in one of our meetings. It's like my favorite book right now is The Emperor Has No Clothes. Don't nobody know what they doing. Everybody fronting. You know what I'm saying? Everybody trying to figure it out. Everybody going through the same pandemic. Some people got more than others do or whatever, but you would be surprised. Well, no, y'all wouldn't be surprised. How many times y'all worked hard and you made it to that C-suite level meeting? And you like, okay, this is where the hitters at. This is where the big paychecks at, right? And then
absolutely.
And then you sitting there and you like, you hear one dumb question, and then you hear another dumb question, and then you hear something else, and you like, wait a second. Hold on, I can do this. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of just put that there. You know, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in there one more time, Dr. Laura, but we just kind of went, because we got to build up our people, man.
Yeah, and I as I think about just my own trajectory and so many other conversations that I've had with young entrepreneurs, I think about imposter syndrome. You know, it's that idea that, you know what, maybe I can't, or, you know, am I supposed to be here? Those you deserve that seat that you're in. You earn that seat. You're standing on the shoulders of greatness. You're supposed to be there. That idea that you have, that vision that you have, it was placed there for a reason. And so, like, I think sometimes we get in our own way, we get in our own head, and we block our own blessing, and we question ourselves, and we talk ourselves out of things, right? But we have to lean in. We have to lean in. We have to own who we are and whose we are, and step in and do the work. And so, you know, for the person that's out there, like, I don't know, who's struggling with that imposter syndrome, or maybe you haven't done enough. And I know, you know, for Black women, we got to get all the degrees, and I'm guilty of that. We got to get all the degrees. We got to stockpile everything before we feel like we got to check every box on that job description before we decide that we're going to apply. And we need to, and meanwhile, you know, some of our white males counterparts, they might have one of those descriptors, and they're ready to apply, right? So we also have to get out of our own way, especially when it comes to walking into our entrepreneurial vision that we have in our minds.
That's what's up, man.
And that's
go ahead, Jay.
No, I was gonna say, that's what I mean by that deficit mindset, right? Because, you know, a lot of you feeling confident about yourself is you being validated and amplified by others. So it's two things there. It's being a part of a community that's going to give you that space so that you feel like, wait a minute, I can do this. This is something that I'm good at. And when you are constantly being told no, and you're constantly being told what you can't do, you know, that does weigh on you. It feels heavy, because then you second guess yourself. So you've got to be able to put yourself in a space where you know that that's possible, and that there's care there, and there's support there. And then the second part is like the confidence, right? You got to have the confidence. I mean, if y'all can't look, we got the dumbest 45th president I've ever seen in my entire life. But he works with so much confidence. And he like, yeah, I said that. Yep, I did that. You know what I mean? And it's like, what? You know, it was funny. I don't know if y'all watched the debate last night, but it was like, even, you know, Vice President Biden was like, come on. That's all you could do is say, come on. Like, are you serious? But there are people who believe that nonsense because he presents a level of confidence about it. Mm-hmm. And that's horrible. But this is also a white male who's been told all his life the word yes, and been affirmed that you can do everything you want. Having 11 bankruptcies don't make a difference. You're still a successful person. How many Black people you know would have 11 bankruptcies and still feel like they can have their own business? You know, but you can. So if I'm not learning anything else in this presidency, I'm learning that, you know, lotus flower grows in shit, and it ain't never too late. And all I can do to be myself is continue to move forward and have confidence. That'll take you a long way. So that's what I give to this 45th. That's all he get from me.
Well, and let's stay there though, right? Because now we move into like our last topic, and it's like, so now we've talked about the general need for this stuff, and we've talked about our personal journeys kind of getting here, and now we got people listening and people that's gonna listen. How would you encourage these other parents to start the process of building their own tables?
I'll jump in on this one. And there are a few things that I can think of, and I think we've covered a lot of them just in this conversation that we've had so far. But the first thing I would say is know that it's not easy. And so just enter into the space recognizing that, you know what, this is going to be hard work, but I'm committed to doing it, and commit to the process. Lean into that process and recognize, you know what, I'm going to do what it requires, but I know it's going to be hard. And get a support system. So we've talked about having a circle around you, people who are, affirming who you are, and what you can do. They know your capabilities, but I would say have that circle. I have a circle of girlfriends that I've called a lot, especially during this pandemic when things have gotten difficult. I'm starting a organization in the midst of a pandemic. We launched in January, and then March we were shut down. And one of my primary responsibilities is fundraising. So it's like I had to rethink everything, and it was very difficult. But it was no way that I was going to turn back. And so we're leaning into all of the difficulty, because I liken it to like the development, the process of becoming a diamond. Like you got to be pressed. It's going to be dark. It's going to be cold. It's going to be all of those things until it develops into this beautiful, brilliant stone. Right. So you're going to have to push through that and have a circle around you. And then I would also say identify problems or opportunities that exist around you that are linked to your passion. Right. So where's the problem and where's your passion, and where those two meet? That's the table that you want to build right there. And then start the plan. Start planning that process. After you figure out where those two meet, you got your group. Find a partner if you want to have a partner in crime to do this work together. But to me, those have been some of the key ingredients that have given me that staying power.
That's what's up, man. You want to go ahead and jump in, Jay, or?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. I would, she broke down a lot of pearls of wisdom, and obviously it's really good to hear, because this is a living proof, right? There's proof and content. So she's showing you, and she's sharing with you basically what she's had to do. And like I said, and not being afraid of it. What I would add to that is, and it's funny, I'm gonna give a shout out to my husband for this. Just ask. And and I say that because I find it specifically to be my issue as a Black woman. Sometimes I feel like I have to show in a space so well put together, with no issues, no problems, that pristine, like I could figure it, like you said, very composed. But sometimes we need help. And sometimes it's just a matter of asking, how did you accomplish that? I mean, Charles, that's how you and I started this. I asked you, how did you do this? It's a matter of kind of like Laura mentioned, envisioning what it is you want. I think for me, in my experience, I've always been someone that I still like to stay behind the scenes. And one of the great things about being behind the scenes is that you get to be an observer. You get to be a fan, you get to be a spectator, but you actually get to see something in action in that play. And from that, if you take really good notes, you could take that and turn it into something of your own. And so that's where I have been in this space, is that I have been someone who's volunteered at different events that for my children, or things that I felt good about in my community. I just did it because it made me feel good. And sometimes we don't always have the time to do it. So if I couldn't volunteer, for like something at my kid's school, I would at least show up and, send cookies, or, be at the front door to greet the students, something that showed that I was there and I was involved and I was engaged. And I did that primarily to have a relationship with my kids. But what that turned into was that the energy that I was getting from being there, I was like, I need this around me all the time. So what else can I do? If you got an event coming up, how can I volunteer to be a part of that? And then the second thing was getting connected to the people that are doing the work, right? So you've got program managers and people who, like I said, have been identified. Knowing who those people are. A lot of times, a lot of people don't have the capacity and they need help, but they don't know if you don't ask. And so again, you got to be able to humble yourself and say, look, I'm asking. This is where I'm at in my life. This is where I'm trying to get to. There's nothing wrong. I mean, vulnerability is a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you are less than. It means that you understand that you need support. And within our community, that's gold. We've got to continue to know that that's where we have our strength, is being able to see ourselves as a collective. And then the last thing I would say is, and Laura mentioned this, it's assessing your skills. If you can burn in the kitchen, you would be so surprised at how that could turn into a catering career, or, could be something where you just host an event, like something that you love, that you have not given your passion to because you haven't had the time. You've got to create time for that. Take time today, 30 minutes after this episode, to say, I'm going to set my timer for 30 minutes and I'm just going to process what I'm good at and what I like. And the rest of that, I could tell you, I would love to speak more about it. I would just say, tune in, learn from us, because one of the things that I think we've all agreed is that this isn't just about us sharing. This isn't about us talking about this, but it's about sharing the wealth. So at the end of the day, if you can't think of anything else, but you just have a desire or a fire in you and you need direction, tune in. I mean, all of us, Charles, I'm sure at the end of this, you'll have our credentials and our stuff to pop up on the screen. Log in on Facebook, on our pages, on our websites, and just find a way, again, to just start from square one, getting involved and becoming a volunteer.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think, so everything that they both said, and I would just add on. First, you can't be afraid to fail. This system ain't afraid of failing you. Listen, man, this is the thing. We give people so much slack. Well, we give people so much like rope and forgiveness about failing us, but we scared to fail ourselves. Like, we afraid, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, nah, man, you deserve that same type of leverage with yourself. I fail every day. I mess something up every single day. I looked at my email today and was like, yeah, I didn't do that right. I need to do that again. That ain't it, Chuck. That's not it, Charles, right? And I think somebody else mentioned it. Jay, you mentioned it about 45. Oh, thank you for the message, Shara. And hey, Shara. And congratulations on your promotions, Shara.
Yeah, Miss CEO.
Cool. So let's send her some love. And you always got love from all three of us on this podcast. But I think, self-confidence, man. And, I know it was a joke before that Cat Williams said, but I loved it when he made it, and I'm going to reiterate it. He was talking about self-esteem, but I'm going to use it with self-confidence. It starts with self. I can't have the confidence for you. Like, you got to want it, and you got to have it in yourself. You know what I'm saying? And like, Jay, I think you gave a good example of the president, who none of us really respects or likes or whatever, but the one place he ain't lacking, he has this inflated, you don't have to go that far. But I think that, like, you got to believe in you first. And if you don't believe in you, how the hell I'm supposed to believe in you? And it's the thing, right? Like, the world don't care. It don't care about our hangups. It don't care about our insecurities, right? It's going to keep turning and spinning. So you got to keep churning and working. I would say the other thing is, nobody's responsible for your happiness. Nobody's responsible for your kids. Nobody's responsible for your lineage. And Dr. Laura was talking about this with her mom. Understand that your kids are always watching. As somebody who is not a parent yet, right? But like, at some point I may well be. Your kids watching you work will be burned into their skulls later on. And do you want them to watch you just miserable and upset and not happy at how things are going? Or do you want them to watch you build something that's yours that got your name on it? And I'm not, listen, I'm a 9 to 5, 5 to 9 guy. Your boy was homeless. So work the jobs you got to work, baby. You know what I'm saying? Get them bills paid, because homelessness is real. Like, you can, these sob stories might work on Twitter and everybody is hashtagging Black Lives Matter. But if that rent check ain't showing up, your ass is out of a place to live. So pay your bills, but it's all about your 5 to 9. What do you do outside of that? I know you might have kids. I know you might have to cook. I know you might have to do homework. You might have to go. It's a bunch of stuff you got to do. But even if it's investing 5 minutes in yourself every day, 15 minutes in yourself, baby, YouTube is free. Like, YouTube is free, and you got to fall in love with the process. You got to fall in love with all the aspects of building that thing. So, for instance, I was telling Jay before the show, it took me about 2 hours to figure out how to build that timer, and to put it on the thing. And I had to mess up. I got 5 messed up clocks in my MacBook, trash can right now, right? But this is an investment in me. And so I'm gonna learn how to do it. You know what I'm saying? And I think the other thing is, you just gotta like make a decision, man. At some point, you just gotta decide. I'm sick of this. Go look at Fannie Lou Hamer. If you looking at your life and where you at, and you scared or you worried, go look at Fannie Lou Hamer and try to see if you can listen to her. Try to see if you can get like a transcript. And I want you to get a transcript because I want you to hear the dialect in which she spoke. People wrote her off. They said she was unintelligent, that she was brute, all this stuff. Man, she got it done, man. She got it done. Ain't nobody coming to save your kids. Ain't nobody coming to save our community. Ain't nobody coming to save the black dollar, the black wealth. You know what I'm saying? Like, we 13% of this country, and we got half a point of this country's wealth. Even though we some of the biggest spenders or whatever, they will let you spend, they'll let you drive yourself sick and crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then that job will just hire a new you tomorrow. So if your district ain't doing what it needs to do, find your power and take it. You know what I'm saying? If you need to move your kid's school, then move it. Do what you got to do. If you want to homeschool, investigate and do it. You don't have to do it on your own. And so I know I've been going, but I'm gonna bring Jay in because I know she wanted to add a specific part about being a parent there.
Right. And no shade to you because you know, I'm sure people know since you don't have kids. For those of us who have kids and know that our time is limited, I wanted to just give some added value to what you were saying, Charles, because my kids help support me. You know, I will tell my children, hey, you know what? Mommy needs you to be, my trainer today. And for 30 minutes, let's do yoga together. Let's do meditation together. You'd be surprised how fascinated kids are with that. So you get them involved. Like I said, depending on where it is, talk to your kids when you're a mother or a father and get them engaged in the process too, because this is one of our later episodes, but it also helps create agency in them. They see, I think Laura and I can both attest to, like, seeing what our parents did helped us. It was a mirror and a reflection of what we could do and what we could do better. All of us want to, build a legacy where our generations to come next will do better than what we have done. So if you've got these desires, and you feel like I don't got the time, by the time I get home, I'm tired. I got to cook, I got to clean, I got to, make sure the kids got their homework, especially now with distance learning, right? Because we all got, 2 or 3 jobs added on to us, right? Like, I am a part-time teacher right now, if not full-time, depending on what day of the week it is. And so, by the end of the day, I'm wiped out. But what I've done is, it is important. The word no does not exist. It has to occur. I have to make this situation better for me and my family. I have to make sure that if I'm going to be spending, 5 hours out of my day because I have to teach my child her curriculum for school, then I'm not going to penalize that in my work environment. And if I am, then I need to start creating an exit plan so that I can get another job. Period. So I just wanted to add that layer into it as far as, like, don't make excuses for being a parent and say, I'm tired. I got my kids. I got everything else pulling at me. Use your family to help be a support network for you and get them to invest in you as well. And just do it in little increments, 5 minutes here, 30 minutes there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I could just chime in quickly on that piece about finding space, because I have a toddler and we're not quite at the age where he can help me at this point. So I'm speaking to people with the little babies who still got a ways to go before we can use them as our helpers. But I'm thinking about, like, what I have to do in order to create the space to dream. And when I'm saying that, I mean, like, where can you carve out 30 minutes to an hour just to, like, journal or write down what it is that you want to do? And for me, I find peace in, like, running and all of that. And I also have a really great husband who supports me and allows me to have, like, what the bandwidth I need in order to do this. And we tag team and support each other. But sometimes I get up at 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning because that I get a solid 2 hours before my son gets up so that I can have that time and space to dream. So you might not be a morning person and that might not work for you, but finding out where those quiet times are in your home so that you can get that space that you need. And when I first started, one of the first books I picked up was Soar by T.D. Jakes to really help me start thinking through what will it really mean to build out something that I want to dream about? Like, what does that really look like? What are the steps that I need to take? And I'm sure there are many other resources, but that was one that spoke to me. But I just wanted to add that little tidbit for those of us with little kids.
That's what's up, man. I mean, so ladies, we've had an amazing conversation. We're coming up on the end. Before we start to close out, are there anything else that we didn't cover? Anything that you want us to cover? You are our esteemed guest, Laura. What what is it that you the floor is yours. Like, what's something you want to say or want us to just have a quick chat about?
Oh, well, I don't know if it's the last word or quick chat, but I just want to encourage people, whatever one. I just want to encourage folks out there who have a dream to pursue it. Don't get bogged down in the why you can't and this isn't right or that isn't right, but find the time and space to dream and explore. And it might just start out as something very small. Nobody's telling you, like Charles said, nobody's telling you quit your job tomorrow. You got to get your affairs in order and do it the way that makes most sense for you. But make sure that you continue to lean in and continue to pursue it, because we need you to do that thing. Whatever that thing is, somebody needs you to do it.
Mm-hmm. All right, go ahead, Jay. What else do we need to say and cover before we move on?
What I would say is just continue to stay tuned. This project right here is a part of my passion. This is a part of us working together. This is me exposing my own level of vulnerability and saying, like, I want to embrace an opportunity for us to build a community together. So I am extending myself. If there's anyone listening that is looking for an opportunity, not really clear the direction they want to go, first, continue to stay tuned, but also just join in the conversations. We've got about 3 more episodes of this. Understand that there's a community of support out there for you. Laura, I'm so glad that you mentioned the book Soar, because I think that that's another resource that we have to tap into. We've got audiobooks and podcasts and so many self-help opportunities and resources literally at your fingertips, that you don't have to feel like you're out in this space by yourself. And anything that you don't know, there is someone or some way that you can get that resource for yourself. So I just wanted to add that on.
I think that's beautiful. And before we do our final thoughts, our colleague, Dr. Laura, has an amazing event that's coming up soon. And yes, you first off, you never have to ask to plug your stuff ever. Like,
yes,
that's why you come on my phone.
Right.
But tell us what
I'll be mad if you didn't.
Yes.
Well, I want to invite people to go to our Twitter page, also to visit us on Facebook. We have a 3-part series coming up called Lunch and Learn, the Black Teacher and Leadership Pipeline. So we're starting out with researchers next Monday, the 26th. It's from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. We'll have some incredible speakers throughout, but we want to talk about how do we build and sustain this pipeline for Black teachers and leaders in the state of California. And this is, even if you're outside of the state of California, it's applicable to wherever you are. So we welcome a national audience. Go ahead, go to our Facebook, go to our Twitter, click on the link and register, and we'll be streaming live as well.
That's what's up,
Thanks
man.
for the space.
And I want to make sure that Jay has the final word. So what I'll say is I'm just very blessed to be able to do this. And, I don't care about failing in front of y'all. I don't care about messing up. Like, I mean, I care, right? But it's like, from where I came from to where I'm at now, like 85% of that was me just showing up. Like, the toughest part is just to show up and start it. And I'm telling you, man, you belong in the room if you think you belong in the room. If you think you don't, then you don't. It's really that simple, and people gonna let you do that, but power never cedes itself. So I'm gonna keep building my own tables, and some is gonna do well, some are not, but I'm gonna learn from them, and I'm gonna grow from it, and I'm gonna keep rocking until I die. And if I do have some little babies and grandkids or whatever, they're gonna see their daddy worked. And they're going to see he built some stuff. And my community going to see it. I worked and I built some stuff. And the rest of it, everybody else can kind of kick rock. So, Jay, why don't you take us home with the final thought of the evening? The floor is yours, boss.
The final thought of the evening is that one of the biggest and most valuable products that you've ever produced as a parent is your children. And so we need to find ways, and as much as possible, to invest in yourself so you can also invest in your children. I have had many of professional experiences and successes, but the best one that I value, and the one that I value the most, is being a mom. And that comes first. And so I need to put myself, and I'm asking you guys to put yourselves in spaces so that we can show up for our kids, because they literally are our future. They are a part of our legacy that helps us grow. And for Black folks, that's a part of being our community. We are all connected. All of us, not even Black folks, we're all connected. But I am so concerned about all of our kids. And for me, being a parent is the most important value that I can add to this world. And so if you are a parent, if you are listening to this broadcast, take today to start to do things for yourself, to give yourself more time and space, to show up with your best brilliance, to be that person for your child. That's it.
Well, that's beautiful, man. And, you know, again, Laura, thank you so much. Jay, thank you so much. Y'all never have to apologize for plugging your own stuff. And people that's listening, if you're trying to get, whether it's an organization or you're trying to get more parents and you're trying to get, you know, people to see their power, or you're a parent trying to like get your own stuff going, reach out to Jay. This is what she does. She's gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's building something so she can help other folks that's just you, that's trying to figure this stuff out and make that move. And we want to support her in doing that. So we're so blessed. We will have our audio issues fixed next time, won't we, Jay?
Yes, we will. And Laura, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being our guest. You're amazing. I'm super excited about your series next week.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. It was a pleasure.
And I love you both, man. And if there's any way I could be of service either way, y'all know, just let me know, and I'll show up. With that being said,
absolutely,
y'all join us next week at the same bat time on the same bat channel, man. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, Fridays for the next 3 Fridays. You get to come kick it with Jay and all this wisdom that she's got. And I'm just so proud of her. So show up for her. And if you watched this and you liked it, please shoot us a like and please share it. We depend on you all to help us get in front of the people that we need to get in front of. Again, this is what happens when you build your own table. And I trust my people. And I think that we got a big enough tribe to where we don't need to be with other folks that may not get the vision or see who we are or fully respect what we bring. So we depend on you all to help share that. So do so by liking, commenting, and sharing with your people. With that being said, y'all enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your drink. Drinks up as we head out. Where you?
Mine is gone.
And with that being said, we will see